about some athletes who changed the sport. And if you guys have been following along, then you probably caught me when I said I'm going to tell you 4. I might tell you 4, but as we go through it, I might have a 5th one I got to put in there. Let's see how this goes. But you have to start with Royce Gracie. Without question, everything that we just saw the last hour of our lives, he showed us something. Not only did he show us an art called jiu-jitsu, not only did he let us know that grappling was a way to defend yourself. If you had some grappling skills and you could grab someone and just defuse it, not only could you protect yourself or win, if you will, a fight, but more importantly, you could do it in a way so that nobody got hurt. And that was very relevant. That's one of the reasons that jiu-jitsu thrived. That's one of the reasons that the gyms and the schools to this day have really thrived because of Royce Gracie. Parents started to see something. Said, I don't want my kid in a tussle, and if he gets in a tussle, I don't want him hurt. On the other side of the coin, I really don't want my kid hurting anybody else. If they just can't get it right and something happens, how about we grab the other guy until somebody breaks it up and we all go home in one piece? Well, Royce is the one that taught us there's a way to do that. There's a way to do that in combat. Royce handed this baton off to a man who is probably the most underappreciated fighter of all time, king of the streets, Marco Ruas. Marco Ruas established himself in, I believe, 1997. That's off the top of my head. Might have been 1996. It was 1996 because he was in the Ultimate. But when Marco Ruas established himself, he came out of Brazil, where the best fighters in the world were coming out of. The internet was still a developing thing. So to find out who these fighters even were, ESPN Plus was not even a term. YouTube was not even a term. Facebook was not even a word for a whole nother decade. I mean, just to put it in perspective for you, you could keep secret. If you had some great guy with great skills and he lived in Brazil and you're producing a show out of North America, you're never going to heard of the guy until he gets in front of the camera. That's exactly what happened with Marco Ruas. And when Marco came in, guys, he was the first fighter ever to be said to have equal skills standing as he had on the ground. Now, he was a Brazilian with a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. But he comes out and he wins his first fight stand-up. Took on a guy named Paul Varelans, great big guy. And Marco was a pretty good, Marco went about 225 the right way himself. He looked pretty athletic. Marco was throwing jabs and finishing everything with leg kicks, He ultimately wins this fight by kicking Paul Varelans in the leg so many times that Paul Varelans falls over. I mean, just like chopping down a tree. But Royce comes in and shows us in 1993, or me, I got to see it first time in 1994, that grappling was something. So we had to live for a period of time believing whoever was the better grappler was going to be the winner in these kind of contests. Marco came along and said, not so fast. You can do it with striking as well, as long as you have the grappling should the fight go there. We fight in 2 dimensions. We fight on the floor and we fight on the feet. Why not learn how to compete in both of those? I believe when you talk about Marco Ruas, every compliment that I just paid Marco, you'd have to say about Don Fry. So I'm not ready to add Don to this list. I feel as though if you go look at those guys, particularly with the time that they came in, you're essentially talking about the same guy. But that baton was then passed to Randy Couture. And what Randy Couture brought to the sport that was different than nobody had ever seen, and I'm well aware you're going to go, well, Chael, duh. Yeah, I got it. But we didn't know until we knew. Randy was a world-class athlete, and that was significantly different. That is not the kind of guys that were going in to cage fighting and mixed martial arts. They just weren't. They weren't setting goals on that. They didn't have. They didn't look at the sport from a nutritional standpoint. They did not look at the sport from a conditioning perspective. They didn't look at it tactically. Randy Couture was the first guy to ever sit down, get videos of his opponents, take notes. Yeah, I know, obvious, right? He was the first. And then go out and put something together known as a game plan. He would actually strategize. He will go and make sure that he was in shape just in case this came to a tough guy contest of who can hang in here longer than the other. But he was the first to do that. So the baton gets passed to Randy, and then ultimately, I would say it was passed to George St-Pierre. I think that George would be the final here because George was the one athlete to come out and really show us the importance of weaponizing pace. If you can weaponize pace, if you've got a couple more bullets left in the chamber and your opponent is out, he can't fire anymore just on exhaustion. It really doesn't matter who knows more. That is largely where the belt system comes in.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.